All right, so picture this. You're at a sailboat race, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And not just any race. We're talking hundreds of boats, all fighting for the lead. Sails are out, winds whipping around. It's got to be kind of chaotic out there, you
Oh,
know?
absolutely. It would be pure mayhem without some rules of the road, so to speak.
And that's where, I'm guessing, this racing rules of sailing thing comes in. This RRS, as the cool kids call it.
You got it. The RRS is the holy grail, the rule book to end all rule books when it comes to competitive sailing.
Okay, but a whole rule book just for sailing? I
Yeah.
mean, sounds a little, I don't know.
Dry.
Yeah, a little dry, maybe? What's so fascinating about a bunch of rules?
Well, for starters, these aren't just any rules. We're talking about the guidelines that govern everything from those epic Olympic showdowns all the way down to your local club's weekend races.
Seriously? Like, the same rules apply to everyone?
Yep. Think of it as the universal language of competitive sailing. It creates a level playing field, ensures fairness, whether you're on the high seas or, your neighborhood lake.
Right, right. So it's more than just, hey, don't ram your opponent's boat kind of stuff.
Oh, it definitely covers that, but there's way more to it. And the RRS covers all that and more. It dictates penalties, outlines the roles of support teams. It even touches on the responsibilities of the competitor's family.
Like their families. Now, that's a whole other level of commitment I wasn't expecting. Tell me more about that.
That's where this whole section called Acceptance of the Rules comes in, specifically Rule 4.
Rule 4, all right. Gotcha.
This isn't just some formality like signing a waiver at a theme park. It's the bedrock, the very foundation of the entire sport.
So Rule 4, it's kind of a big deal then.
Absolutely. Rules 4.1 and 4.2, all about shared responsibility. It basically says that when you step onto that boat, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing your entire support system. Your coaches, your family, even your dog walker if they helped you pack your lucky socks that day.
Wow, everyone's got to be on their best behavior.
Exactly. Because any misstep could reflect poorly on the whole team. It really emphasizes how important sportsmanship and fair play are at every single level.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so everyone's on the hook. Everyone's got to follow the rules. But I got to ask, what happens if there's, a disagreement?
Yeah.
Like, who gets to decide what goes?
You're thinking like a true sailor, always anticipating those tricky situations.
I try.
And that's where Rule 4.3 swoops in the plot thickens.
Ooh, tell me more.
This rule basically says that by agreeing to play by the RRS, the competitors are essentially opting out of taking any disputes to regular court. No messy lawsuits here. They're putting their faith, their trust in sailing's very own internal legal system.
So they're signing up for, like, a mini legal system within the sport itself, just for the love of sailing.
You got it. And this brings us to Rule 4.4, which emphasizes the huge responsibility placed on the shoulders of get this, the person in charge of each
OSIN in charge.
Well,
Sounds official.
Right. So this person, they need to make sure everyone on that vessel knows the RRS like the back of their hand. Because out there on the open water, a wrong move can be dangerous, not just in terms of penalties, but in terms of safety. This is about protecting everyone on board.
Right, safety first. Makes total sense. But I got to be honest, even with all this talk of rules and responsibilities, my brain's still stuck on that whole mini legal system thing. It's wild.
Right. It's a whole fascinating world unto itself.
So how do they even keep track of it all? Like, I'm imagining this massive, dusty book filled with tiny print. Not exactly what comes to mind when I think of, exciting sailboat races.
I hear you. Thankfully, it's not one giant indecipherable book. That's where Rule 5, aptly named Rule, comes into play.
Rule. Okay, that's kind of a meta title for a rule, don't you think?
Right. But it makes sense when you think about it. It's the rule that explains how all the other rules work together.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
So imagine it like a Russian nesting doll of rules. At the very core, the heart of it all, you have the RRS. That sets the global standard, the foundation for fair play across the board.
Okay, so the RRS is like the Constitution of sailing.
Perfect analogy. Then, like layers on that cake, you've got the world sailing regulations, then you've got national prescriptions, then class-specific rules.
Hold on, class-specific rules.
Yeah.
As in, different types of boats have their own set of rules.
You know your stuff. Because, let's be real, a little one-person dinghy is going to need different rules than, say, a massive high-tech racing yacht. They move differently, they handle differently. It only makes sense.
Makes total sense.
And then, to top it all off, you have the super specific rules for that particular race, the notice of race, the sailing instructions, stuff that's tailored to the weather conditions of that day, the layout of the course, all that.
Wow, so it's like the rules themselves, they adapt.
That's exactly it. It's this really cool hierarchy that allows for both global consistency and local adaptation all at the same time.
I never would have thought of it like that. It's amazing how something as seemingly simple as a sailboat race has this whole other layer, this whole complex, well-defined set of rules governing it all. You wouldn't think it, just seeing the boats out on the water, but it makes you appreciate it on a whole other level.
It's true. And you know what we've been talking about, all these rules, it's not just about restrictions and penalties. It's about creating an environment where everyone has a fair shot, where everyone stays safe, and where the spirit of sportsmanship can thrive. It's a reminder that rules, they can be the framework for some truly incredible things.
Well said. And on that note, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the fascinating world of the racing rules of sailing. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.